Welcome to Overflows, where faith stories pour out raw and unfiltered. I'm Kim, your host, and I'm so glad you're here. This podcast is inspired by Psalm 23, verse 5. My cup overflows. It's about conversations that spill over with honesty, grace, and real life experiences from the mission field. Here on Overflows, we sit down with missionaries, pastors, and curious seekers to talk about faith, calling, struggles, and life in the mission field. These are stories you won't hear anywhere else. Stories that inspire, challenge, and remind us of what it means to live out our faith wherever we are. To protect the identities of those serving in sensitive areas, we keep these conversations anonymous. But the heart behind each story remains powerful and personal. Whether you're passionate about missions, considering ministry, or just curious about faith in action, this space is for you. So, grab your favorite drink, find a quiet spot, and let's dive into another story of faith, courage, and overflowing grace. This is Overflows. Today, we have a very special guest joining us. We're diving into the world of missions and exploring how organizations are adapting to an ever changing global landscape. Joining me today is someone who has truly dedicated his life to the mission field. Whitley, the head of Pioneers in Asia. Whitley has years of experience leading, equipping, and inspiring teams across the region. He's passionate about seeing lives transformed through the gospel. Before we dive into our conversation, let's break the ice a little bit. Whitley, what's your drink of choice?
Hi Kim, my drink of choice today is Coca-Cola.
Coca Cola. Wow. Interesting choice. May you explain why?
Well, Coca-Cola is one of my go-to drinks, especially when I have some really nice Asian food. It just washes down the savory kind of after meal feeling. At the same time, Coca-Cola has an interesting purpose statement. It says it aspires to refresh the world and to make a difference. I find it very inspiring, especially for the kind of work that we are doing.
It's pretty interesting. Would like to know more about Coca Cola and the mission they have for the world. Nice. Mine's called Ramune. It's a carbonated drink from Japan, essentially. This is something I really love. It's usually it comes from a cool bottle with a marble inside, but I got the other one. It's fun to open and super refreshing.
That's great.
Anyway, let's dive in today. We'll be talking about the future of missions. What's the status quo of missions right now? The challenges and opportunities. So with the how have missions organizations evolve over time to check the ever-changing needs of global ministry?
Well, that's a big question. Well, with the shifts in the profile of cross-cultural workers being sent out, whereby it's no longer primarily the Westerners, but also non-Westerners who are heading out to obey God's call to the nations. We are seeing the recruitment and preparation of global workers have been curated to prepare the Asian, the Africans, the Latin Americans, and others from non-traditional sending nations. Also, there are more people who feel called to long-term missions, cross-cultural missions, who are exploring non-traditional expressions of ministries. They are inclined to cross-culture as professionals, tent makers, business owners, social entrepreneurs, rather than the classical church planters. Thus, mission organizations have also got to pivot ourselves to serve these ones as well.
That's really insightful. It's interesting how we see missions now, how missions are adapting to reach more people from like diverse backgrounds while leveraging non-traditional roles. So moving on to the next question, what are three ways or three practical ways you think individuals and churches can partner with missions organizations to make a greater impact?
Well, I'm gonna use since I'm from Pioneers in Asia, so we call ourselves PIA. I'm gonna use each of the letters to help us remember the three practical ways that individuals and churches can partner with missions organizations. First, P, to pray regularly for the nations that missions organizations are bringing attention to. So pray regularly for nations that missions organizations are bringing attention to. The second one, I, would be to interact with missions organizations, be on their mailing list, follow them on social media, and if you are more outgoing, initiate coffee or coke or reminisce sessions with the missions organization's staff and participate in missions conferences. Right, so we've got pray regularly, interact with missions organization, and the third one would be to ask the missions organizations how you can come alongside them to serve together. After praying regularly, interacting with them, when the relationship has strengthened, that's a good time to be asking missions organizations how we can come alongside them to serve together. So let the greater impact of partnership be birthed out of a prayerful and relational connection.
It's really clever. Now I can remember it more because I'm thinking of PIA. So let's pray, interact, and then ask. That's right. So thank you so much for that. Those are really practical and inspiring steps. Building relationships, missions organizations sounds like great way to make lasting impacts. Now let's touch on different aspect of missions. With the rise of digital evangelism and social media, how must missions adapt, or how must missions organizations adapt to remain effective in fulfilling the great mission, the Great Commission?
Yeah, so I'm gonna talk about two A's. There's really a lot of things that we can be talking about when it comes to digital evangelization and social media. But I'm gonna just talk about two A's. The first A would be assess. Right, digital missions has given us access, and organizations are leveraging on that to connect with more people and also previously less accessible or even unaccessible places and people. But having access alone is not enough. Being able to make authentic connection via digital space is critical. Access is about the breadth, while authentic connection is about the depth. Going deep with individuals, talking about their lives, talking about faith, and even possibly doing discipleship through that means. Organizations have to consider how to utilize digital tools effectively to deepen connections so that relational trust can be strengthened. Having said that, in terms of reaching those who are in hard places, there's also the ongoing challenge of security concerns and critical need for in-person meetup for effective discipleship to take place. Those are important considerations as well when it comes to digital missions. But for the sake of our discussion today, the two A's, um, accessibility as well as authentic connection.
That's so true. Access and authentic connection are two very different things, and it's essential to balance both in the digital age. Speaking of challenges, here's a big one to consider. What are some of the biggest challenges facing missions organizations today, whether financial, political, or spiritual?
Well, in my opinion, one of the biggest challenges facing missions organizations today is the challenge of bringing understanding that missions is an expression of biblical discipleship. In other words, every disciple of Christ should have some form of missions, cross-cultural missions expression featured in their spiritual life. It does not mean that everyone will become a cross-cultural missionary, but it does mean that every disciple should have some intentional involvement in cross-cultural missions. It could be through regular praying for missionaries and nations, especially unreached peoples and unreached places. Or it could be giving towards cross-cultural missions setting aside some salary allowances, some funds regularly to go towards cross-cultural missions, or even going on trips themselves, getting themselves trained and equipped in the area of missions. You know, in the Bible, in Acts chapter 1, verse 8, it's a verse that Jesus has given to the church. And we have to seriously consider how we are obeying that in our walk with the Lord, in how are we being a witness for the Lord in our Jerusalem, in our Judea, in our Samaria, and even ends of the earth. So I think that's the biggest challenge, to see missions as an expression of discipleship in our churches.
I love how you summarize all these things in a succinct manner, and how you've really highlighted how critical it is to view missions as part of the side of worship, as well as it's a powerful reminder for all of us who desire to live out our faith intentionally. Lastly, I'd love for you to share some encouragement. So, um, what encouragement would you give to someone who feels called to missions but unsure where to start?
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to using the three letters connected to Pioneers in Asia, PIA. Hopefully that will help us remember what are some possible things we can do. First is to pray for the nations and to ask the Lord how He might have you respond to that. That's what Jesus said, right? When He told the disciples, the harvest it's plentiful, but the workers are few. And pray to the Lord of the harvest that He'll send out more workers to the harvest field. So the first thing is to pray. P, to pray for the nations. I is to interact, this time with your church leadership, and share what's your sense of missions, and interact with people from missions organizations, missionaries, others with a passion for missions, right? So first, to pray for the nation. Second is to interact and share with your church leadership, your missions committee, your missions pastor, hang out with people from missions organizations, missionaries. That's going to rub off more of that desire for the nations, for God's heartbeat for missions. And lastly, A is to avail yourself for mission trips. Avail yourself for mission trips. Go on short-term trips, go for vision trip, go and see what the Lord is doing in the nations. So these are my encouragement. Pray, interact, and avail yourself.
Beautifully said for me. To recap, pray, interact, avail. Starting with prayer and building connections in community really sets foundation for discerning God's call. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, I'm as I talk about Coke being my favorite drink, I believe Coke, the people at Coke, they have a vision, right? And the vision is to put a can or a bottle of Coke or a cup of Coke in the hands of everyone, all the 8 billion people in the world. I think that's so inspiring, and that should also inspire us to be thinking about taking the gospel to everybody all across the world as well.
Thanks so much for sharing your insights with me. Your experience and perspective are truly valuable. And to all our listeners, thank you for tuning in to Overflows. Make sure to subscribe and stay updated for more conversations like this. Till next time, take care and be blessed.